Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very exciting time to be alive, because technically this is live. It's just live on a Discord stream because my internet still isn't set up, even though I thought it would be by now. We're recording this on the 20th of November, and we are going to be taking a look at the final best of threes from Weekendwage. Almost 2 weeks ago, actually. This Sunday is when we're going to see another one. By the time this video comes out, it'll already be over, and we'll still be catching up on the old runs, the old guard. But that's okay, because going forward, I will actually be present for pretty much every match that I can cover anyway of Weekendwage, so there won't be quite as much of a backlog. It's not going to take me 2 weeks to get through the entire event. Anyway, we have some ZVZ action here for you, and Art of Turtle in the top right is going to be our purple. No, Japanese violet, actually. How could I think it was just regular purple? I don't know, something about it seemed off. It's the desert tile set. He is Japanese violet in the top right, and ArbuzBudesh in the bottom right is our teal Zerg player. And we do actually have a little Kagrant Pool Larvosk build coming out from Arbuz, whereas AOT's going for a much more committed pool build where he's going to make those early Zeths. A little spoiler for you, I'm not sure if Arbuz did this intentionally, as the higher seed he picks the first map. One of the things you got to think about here when you're going up against Art of Turtle is if he doesn't have a pick ban veto and Mass Destruction is available, Mass Destruction is a great pick against AOT. His eyes literally don't work on the map, so he will all in you. And that's basically what we see here. Arbuz probably picked it just because he likes the map. He finds it enjoyable. So he's going to go ahead and put down his own second Kagrant. That will likely turn into a Circuit here if it's going to be pressured, which it looks like it is. One pair of Rillaro cores halfway complete, two pairs of Zethra cores, and that Kagrant is done. But this Circuit is almost halfway complete as the Zeths come in. This is a really, really tough situation for ArbuzBudesh to find himself in, it looks like. And immediately his Circuit is going to go down. Disaster has struck. This might actually just be game, depending on how easily he's able to clean this up. As defensive Kagrant being put down, that's going to be something that he has to protect. He's lost his Larvosk. Remember, back at home, though, AOT down 4 workers. This is a considerable, significant advantage here in the economy, but he loses his first couple of units, and he calls GG a little bit too early. Had no opportunity to protect that Kagrant with his Droleths based on the placement. Some mistakes were made. High pressure situation. You'll love to see it. Just like that, GG. Our first matchup immediately in the bin. And I guess AOT can play on Mass Destruction after all. He just needed to win immediately. And we are back in action here. Oh, I got to change the map name. Can you believe I gave myself more work? It is not Mass Destruction anymore. Blink and you'll miss it. Hey, I should change the borders to Zerg as well. It's okay. That was only the first 3 minutes of the game, so nobody was watching anyway. We do have another matchup head-to-head here. AOT picking map number 2. It's Patadia coming at you. Map by Biddy B. The last one was a port of Oil Flow. Originally by... I think that might have been Freakling, but I can't remember. Anyway, I ported it, and it was Bounty by 3Crow. There you go. The map intro's over. We've got ArbuzBudesh in the top left as a... Oh, this is a funny color. I believe this is actually Midnight Green, but it's Dark Spring Green. Okay, I hadn't seen that color in a very long time. But that's a funky one, because you can see that it's like a cyan turquoise almost in the nameplate and the mini-map, but it's much brighter for green on Zerg colors in particular. Down here in the bottom right, we just have the green AOT. That's right. He is Art of Turtle, the green Zerg player, and he's going for a pool start yet again, pretty fast, as Arbuz going for a Hydrith opener here. Obviously, Patadia is a longer rush distance than most 1v1 maps, like most 2-spawn maps, but Mass Destruction was a 4-spawn map, and AOT got a close enough spawn to make his cheese work. So we're going to have to see whether or not there's some kind of follow-up there. And, you know, AOT's actually not bad at macro, but I do think that typically he ends up in a deficit after the early game and has to fight his way out of that. If ArbuzBudesh can sort of lead from the front, I would say he's a slight favorite in the series overall. But he is also still... I'm never going to... I do maybe hold on to this. You guys can tell me in the comments or whatever. Also the live chat, since this is technically live. But you guys can tell me in the comments if you think I'm a little bit too harsh on people who switch races. Because Arbuz has been taking some serious names, you know? We think back to the Tribunal stage. He made it all the way to the Grand Finals. Got owned by Oya, but there were some of those games that actually looked a little bit on the closer side. And one of the things that I think back to is, like, yeah, Arbuz defeated Shopkeeper Dog. Arbuz defeated... he struggled versus Grass Eater, but then he went on to his first round opponent and defeated him too. I can't remember who that was right now. But at the end of the day, it's like, damn, okay, Arbuz, you got some names under your belt. Oh, you lost your Hydra. Never mind. Everything I'm saying positive about you is over. You failed to defend your Hydralisk. But you know, at the same time, I'm like, you know, you were Protoss, so your Zerg, it takes a while for your Zerg Elo, your MMR, to get back up to where it was. A couple of workers should be going down here if AOT's control is good, but he only ends up getting 1 kill. Not as effective as maybe he wanted to be. Gets up 1 Zeth away and burrows, but that's easy to track down for AOT, or rather his opponent, Arbuz. So as a result of all that talk that I was talking about Arbuz race switching from Protoss to Zerg, he has actually played Zerg a few times before. It's not his first rodeo with the race. He just kind of switches between them depending on what he thinks is fun, what he's having most enjoyment out of, which, you know what, I respect. I feel like more people should do that. All those Terrans who are whining, oh, I don't want to play Terran, it's too hard. Yeah, play Protoss then, fucker. Like, what's the big deal? It's a game. I mean, you're competing to have a good time, but, you know, if it's really that much of a wine bag situation, then get some cheese with that wine. Some Protoss cheese. Zerg is going to come on down here. I do still think Arbuz is going to be the favorite of the series. I do think that first game was a little bit of a fluke, but hey, Arbuz can be taken advantage of in the early game of these matchups, I feel like. That's where sometimes he can be surprised by what he's seeing. So we'll have to see if that continues to be the case. But so far, he's looking pretty solid. He's got 4 worker lead right now. AOT is rushing up to ski-backed, though, behind his Quas-based push, and he's had a lot of experience holding with Quasilisks versus Iziricors. He's had to do that against Zeki. I think he's had to do that against some other players like Microgreen recently. Shout out Microgreen one time. I feel like Microgreen was from... Is he from Bulgaria? Is that where he's from? I think so. Cool guy. Nice to have more representation of different countries. I always get like, I guess that, you know, I should probably ask people if they want to bear their country's flag and point them to the channels and roles on our Discord server for that. You can do that. I did go through the effort of setting it all up, but not everybody wants to. Understandable. Not everybody wants to advertise where they're from. Now, that being said, AOT is currently indicating to us that he's okay with taking a later expansion than his opponent. He just wants that spike up in terms of military. Only trouble is he's got a bunch of Quasilisks for anti-drop as they're now fanning out inside the main base. He's got a big ball of Iziricors that could certainly muscle out Arbuz's position here. Oh, this isn't a backdoor rush at all. I was going to say he doesn't have any Hydras to use that ski-backed with. He's going for Teths. He's going to try to rush to the Teth Zorachor. We'll see if that ends up adding up to him. Oh, one thing I do have to give Arbuz credit for, though, I love to see that he is doing hardcore gaming with macro hatches. I feel like that's something that Zerg really need to start doing a little bit more. I mean, this is pre all of our Zerg changes that are currently, that did end up getting submitted to release most recently. So you guys are definitely seeing them in your games now by the time you're listening to this video, watching this video. But I should point out that this is, of course, before, you know, Iziricor becomes cheaper, Hydra becomes cheaper, Lakes becomes cheaper, Naths become cheaper, but all of those units have a little bit of a cut somewhere else. I guess Naths is just better. It's cheaper and it has a little bit more durability. But the other units, you know, like Hydra lost some damage, gained 1 armor pen. Lake has lost a lot of damage, actually, if you think about it, because it's 3 damage on the first shot and 3 damage on the last shot, so it's a net -6, but they were doing 30 if you got hit with both spines, so whatever. Now, this attack looks a little bit better for Arbuz here, actually, but the surrounding reinforcements might help thin the herd. This looks like it'll still be mostly cost-efficient here for our darker green Zerg. Yes, I know that you probably can't tell the difference between the units, but here come the Tetzorachors, and are they going to be able to sustain through them all? The Hydra's doing enough damage, it feels like, to get over the line. AOT now flexing into a bunch of Hydras. Feels like if he had waited for, you know, 2 more Teths, he would have won that fight much more handily. Didn't have to pull the trigger there, but wanted to delay Arbuz from getting an advantaged position. Still, despite the tech advantage here, and I love that we're going to see a little bit more, you know, static defense setup here, anti-drop for Arbuz's main and natural. We will end up seeing a slow scale up of AOT because he's down half the workers, and of course, he doesn't have a base. He doesn't have a second base. This is a 1-base Apex tech node rush. Not at all what I was predicting. With all that out of the way, though, there are still some vectors for AOT to come back into the game, but it is going to have to be a comeback. He's at a economic deficit and production deficit to the point where it won't matter that he has Tetzorachors. This could be a very unceremonious game. In fact, AOT is just going to preemptively GG, seeing the Hydra count and realizing he was without an expansion for far too long. That will be our game 2, which means we will be going to our decider. Let me just verify what map that is. Frosted Forest, of course, Arbuz's map pick. So we'll be going there in just a moment. And we are back. NP indeed. We are back with Cosmonarchy's latest Weekendwage as of the time of recording, but not the time of this video being published. Not confusing at all, I swear. We are into Game 3 between ArbuzBudesh and Art of Turtle. Winner will face none other than Zeke in the lower final because Newt did the unthinkable and 2-1'd him. Can't believe it. We'll have to see if Zeke can have his revenge, but first he'll have to get through one of these 2 Zergs. Game 1, pretty wild cheese from AOT. Game 2, a little bit more of a straightforward attempt at like doing some kind of wacky one-base tech rush from AOT. Did not work anyway, but now he's on the ice tile set, so no complaints. We're on Frosted Forest, a map pick of not AOT, ArbuzBudesh. You know, the higher seed picks map 3 if it goes there. Excuse me, per our Weekendwage rules. Also, I feel like Weekendwages are really good. Like, they're actually giving a lot of fodder for competitive like examples and helping me make up the rankings. I did the rankings last night, a little bit of an update. So you know, it's cool to see some of those Weekendwage events coming through and giving some of the idea of what's going on. It's neat. It's neat. It's interesting. We'll have to see if we can keep them going. There is a world where we could do them every week, but I kind of like the every other week pacing. Gives the other weekend some breathing room to have like the weekend war, the everybody FFA and all the for fun stuff. Anyway, we should introduce our players perhaps a little bit more. Stupendously, we have the Japanese Violet Zerg in the top right. It is Art of Turtle, and he's gone for a Hydrith into Core build with the Larvosk follow-up. Now ArbuzBudesh putting on his pool pants because he is going to be like Art of Turtle. Make that pool first. You know, I mean, there's the Larvosk involved and all that, but make that pool instead of the anything else. And a lot of Zethicores coming his way. He is the Zinwaldite Brown? No, Cordovan Zerg. Would never have guessed that on this tile set, to be honest. Zethicores are going to make contact with the Core. There, Charlie was hiding in the trees. But none of the Zethicores go down, courtesy of that 50 HP buff that they got. Very cool. Actually, I don't know that. Yeah, it looks like, indeed, one of them was in single digits, so one of them would have died otherwise. Kind of giving him the run around. It delays the Core from walking over, allowing the pool player to get a little bit more units, so Arbuz should be totally fine in terms of defense. Oh, he's actually going to go after him, maybe see if he can do some kind of surround. That is ill-advised. But at the very least, they stood a better chance initially. Sending them across the map now, but there's more Cores where that came from. Big shout out to Solstice for making the Core model and portrait, though. What a guy. His most recent creation, the Herald, is also available for pre-release testing. I highly recommend checking it out. Very cool. Combined army of Zethicores and Quasilisks are on the way. And those 4 Zeths earlier are going to be held at an arm's length. One of them burrowed around the expansion spot, the other one just watching in case there's a move out. It's going to give that information over to Arbuz, who is getting ready for his own expand. Got to be really quick on the draw to stop this kind of thing from going down. Oh my god! I can't believe it! He put it off center. Can't believe he would do that. Random Zethicores just jump scaring those Cores all the time. All the time. Well, the expansions are going down at basically the same time. AOT is just ever so slightly faster. And we have the gas cap already coming in on that ridge. The Escagant will be online shortly. Arbuz isn't even bothering to harvest Vespine from the ridge right now. Doesn't need it. Feels more inclined towards building up his mineral bank. Getting a lot of combat units. He's down a couple of workers. Love to see AOT go for a bit more of a macro game here because his cheese was whatever, he got over mass destruction and managed to all in to, rest his eyes a little bit. But when we got to the second map there, it definitely felt like he was trying a little bit of a too funky an idea. You know what I mean? That's not really something that I would expect to work out in the same way, at least. One Core, exculpatory, but is just going to get zapped. Goodbye, sir. Might have actually been able to escape with like a little bit of HP. You never know. You never know. 5 Izzy's sticking around. Whenever I call him Izzy's, it's just because it is Core, but Izzy doesn't sound right somehow. I probably should be calling them Izzy because every time I say Izzy, it's like a question. Like in English, is he? No, don't know. Don't think so. I love that 2 of these are following the other one. They were given a stop order. It's fine. That's all good. All right, ski back to complete. Escagant complete, and we have a little bit of Vespine mining here at the natural for AOT. He's actually undersaturated at the natural compared to Arbuz, who's playing a little bit more defensively. Zork is behind his 2 Circuits at the natural, and a Vornath. We're going to get some Nathricores. Hell yeah, brother. Let's see what those Nathricores are going to be able to do for us. I feel like overall, I'm liking Arbuz's position a little bit better, a little bit more flexibly. He's also, I think, got more production, right? Yeah, double Larvosk in the main plus the 2 hatches. So we are looking at 1 extra larva per 14 seconds. That'll even up now that this Kagrin is here, but that has equated to more and more, larva, more workers. A little bit of a better position there for Arbuz. I think he's just a little bit quicker on that front. You do afford more production with Pool than you do with Den. So it's no surprise, really. Ski backed on the way. We got a lot of Droleths coming in there for AOT now, but he's still a damn sight further behind. I love that he managed to sneak through here somehow and get a full scout off. He'll see the Vornath, and actually I don't know if his one Hydra... Oh, he gets a kill. Well, I guess that's worth. I don't know if his one Hydra actually went deep enough to see the Zorkas, though. And here we go. The Nathakor is going to come in. There are some Hydras and backs here. This shouldn't amount to really much. In fact, it only amounts to a Nathakor dead. No worker harassment. But, Arbuz is still up by 9 workers, so he didn't need to be up more. But he could be if he wanted to. 6 Zoryus on the way. I feel like this Teth Rush that Art of Turtle's been doing isn't necessarily guaranteed to be a success. We also have that Ulgorg on the way already. I don't know. I think in an immortal fight, Ultra Cores are better than Tetzoricores, right? Like, in a long enough time frame, you are going to get better utility out of the Ultra Core. Plus, you got access to that splash damage with the Lake is. Your Zoryus will speed everything up and rend the armor. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not really liking AOT's composition. Adding a Pool now, there's some wisdom in that. Get a little bit more chaff, start getting some map control. It's kind of interesting that the different combinations of tech nodes make the Zerg compositionally so much different than each other. That's one of the main advantages of having so many different units in the game, is you will be in a position eventually that no mirror matchup is actually going to be mirrored, because you're just not going to have the same tools that you've chosen to opt into necessarily. Barring some very extreme case. And Droleth was right-clicked there by the Zeth, but is not going to fall, and it can go ahead and take the expansion. We did have a pretty heavy mineral bank there for a moment, but Arbuz is going to compensate by making Zoryus, Zeths, and 4 Ultra Cores were queued up. Nathakor is patrolling around the, we'll call it 2 o'clock position there. That is a logical third base location if you're trying to play further away from your opponent. But AOT has taken the one that's a little bit further out. Kind of leapfrogs into more bases. That's actually something that's nice about Frosted Forest, is this base is maybe easier to defend in some ways, but it doesn't really get you anywhere closer to better bases. Like, you're not going to take this base at 3 o'clock off of taking 2 o'clock, but you will take 12 o'clock off of taking this position here, sort of, we'll say, inner 1. Zeth, of course, chase off some Izzies, who did scout the Hacharosk here in, we'll say, inner 7. But there's a outpouring of Zethicores coming in for AOT, and just to make contact, anticipate falling upon the large army of AOT. Of Arbuz, that's very scary. I feel like Art of Turtle is in a lot of danger here. Where is his army? Mostly parked over here by the third base, but he saw the military of Arbuz move out down the middle. He needs to absolutely get back to his natural choke point as soon as possible. Otherwise, I really feel like he's going to be in deep doo-doo. What a way to immediately get owned, by the way. I don't know. Don't be in deep doo-doo. That's all I can say. Cycling out with some reinforcements. His tier 2 is nearly complete. I don't think he's going to have any time to actually articulate it, though. 5 Lake is on the way for Arbuz. He actually didn't move out with his Lake is, by the way. They are still somewhere on the defense. Not entirely sure quite where. He did make a few, didn't he? Am I wild? Am I crazy? I don't know. I can't see him. Oh, there they are. They rejoined with the rest of the group. They weren't there on my screen when I said that, though. I swear, guys. Now, this could be a little bit of a sandwich point for AOT, but he has no detection that can move. He's got the Khaz'trith, and that's it. Looks like he's erecting one over at the third base. This is going to eventually spread Kagra far enough that, Arbuz will be aware that there's an expansion that way. Kind of like a Undead in Warcraft 3 foretelling them, oh, the worker migration! Well, that gives away the expansion, even if the Kagra didn't. Only 2 of them making it through alive. And, well, the revealing of a pretty sizable army here with the Khaz'trith might be able to help out. We do have one Bactylisk over there forking a ton of projectiles onto the back line, but AOT is so slow to actually get over here. Reinforcements from Arbuz have actually stood on top of the lake, as that's going to stop any sort of reinforcements from coming through. Yet still, AOT's Tetzoracors reign supreme over this army, and it feels like maybe Arbuz needed to pick a target and focus on it, because as a result of his shenanigans and investing so much into those Lakes that did not contribute to this fight, he will not be able to conquer the third base. Will AOT get a little too big for his britches, though? Remember, these Lakers can still do out a ton of damage. We got an Ultra Core staying alive, attacking with quite a bit of vigor, quite a bit of power, and now trying to go after those Bactyls, but at the end of the day, it's maybe a little bit of a ridiculous affair. A lot of blood. We love that bloodshed. Take some screenshots, why don't you? More Ultra Cores where that came from. I still think AOT is in a lot of danger, but he has had time to articulate his tier 2. Al-Kagiteth on the way. He's making some Almax. Yeah, it's a pretty good choice, actually, through a lot of what Arbuz has is going to be stuff like Zoryus, Ultra Core, Lakis, which really is going to be a great set of targets for the high armor penetration of the Almac. Ovaleth coming out as well. 3 of them to help detect where Arbuz's Lakis are. And one of the things you really got to watch out for, too, is exactly what Arbuz is doing, grabbing that Zozark Gorge. If you get that access, you are starting to make, Gorger cores into their evolved form, which, so far Arbuz hasn't made any of those. Zobrialisks aren't bad either. They're okay anti-air. They actually got a little bit better at that sort of task later on when they got a range increase. But now with the Ovaleth out here to detect, the Lakers are going to want to burrow away. They are going to struggle a little bit versus these Almacs, unless Arbuz just wants to kind of delay as long as possible while the rest of his ground army moves in. His Lakers do end up retreating, and the rest of his army is going to try to quash this third. Finally, where are the reinforcements from Art of Turtle? He's got a bunch of ground units that he's not using. He's just sacking the base. I guess it didn't have that many Droleths in it after all anyway. Might not matter too much. The Almac's still trying to clean up what they can. 2 more being made, but we've got 13 pairs of Nathracors got queued up behind this. ArbuzBudesh will reign supreme over the skies shortly after his conclusion over here at the third base. That inner one gone. Even the limited number of Nathracors, they actually are able to pick 3 out of 5 of the Almacs. That was just with like 4 or 5 Naths. A wild turn of events there, because he's got so many more where that came from, and I don't think AOT has much holding on. Remember, this is a double elimination bracket, and they're in the best of 3 phase, but they've already spent both of their tournament lives to get here. If Arbuz finishes the job here and now, which it looks like very much so he will, AOT will be knocked out, and Arbuz will be the one to ascend over to face Zeke in that lower bracket. In that lower final. Can the Ultra Cores break through the wall that Art of Turtle has put together? Looks like he might have maybe gotten over his skis. Arbuz has to fall back, cycle back, and wait for some reinforcements. But Art of Turtle is only barely holding on. His tier 2 advantage, it is still there, but is it going to be significant enough? We got the Apex node for the Calcure Lake. That Zozark Gorge is done. Still waiting to see it articulated in any way for Arbuz's army, but we've got Calculisks on the way out of some of the Nathracors that were made, and that can absolutely render stuff like this obsolete. Although the Spear Tith is actually going to help out quite a bit, especially factoring in the extra oomph of the Khazitrith, giving it more targets. 5 more Almacs come up, joining the 6 that are already there. A healthier, more respectful number. Pretty cool fights overall, but with 4 bases mining to only 2 of AOT, and that Droleth getting sniped by the lake is left over there is actually a little bit more impactful than it initially seems, as the main base is starting to run dry for AOT. I don't think the economy is going to be able to hold up, and I don't think that he's going to trade cost efficiently enough with the extra units that he's got out of tech. Look at those Nathracors erase some of the Almacs immediately, and the Calculisks are absolutely unrecoverable. You cannot approach them through all of the mass, the chaff of the Ultra Cores. The ground army is going to be routed almost assuredly. Trying to cycle back to where the Khazitrith is. That's his proven palace, his area of power. Problem is that I don't think Art of Turtle is going to be able to hold on to the throne for much longer. He's going to get knocked right off of it. Oh, so low are his Almacs, they could be shredded by these Calcs. And in fact, they will be in just a little bit more. Yeah, as everything goes up in smoke, GG has to be called. Arbuz will take the game and the series. Forget about his bank. Don't worry about that part. We are going to see him versus Zeke soon. Can't believe it, dude. Unbelievable scenes at the end of that. I can't believe the outcome. I will point out that I did mention Arbuz should have been the favorite of this set, but the way in which it happened, we got to see tech rushes in both of the other games after the opening cheese that AOT pulled off. And funnily enough, Mass Destruction might be his best performing map after all, just because he can't see anything, so he just goes for the cheese. GG's boys, will be back with more Cosmonarchy in another video soon. Thanks for hanging out.